All right, diving into the future of our cities today, and let me tell you, we've got a lot to unpack.
A lot indeed. Should be fascinating.
It really should. We're working with pasted text today, which gives us a really interesting snapshot of the trends shaping urban spaces right now.
Great source. Lots to dig into.
Totally. So first up, ride-hailing. It's not exactly news, but the scale of it in cities like San Francisco, Phoenix, LA, it's mind-blowing. We're talking over 100,000 rides every single week.
Yeah, it's huge. And it really makes you think about how city life is changing, how we're getting around.
Exactly. Tell us about the way cities are evolving, you think?
Well, it's not just about convenience anymore. I mean, it is, but this is impacting urban planning, car ownership, even public transit. Like, in San Francisco, 36% of ride-hailing trips connect to public transit.
Wow.
Yeah, people are integrating it into their commutes, not just, like you said, late-night rides.
Right, absolutely. And here's something else I found interesting. The average ride-hailing trip is only 3 miles. That seems so short. Wouldn't you just walk or bike that? What's the deal there?
It's a classic example of what urban planners call the last mile problem. Public transit can get you most places, but that final connection, that last little bit to your destination, that's often where the system breaks down.
I see.
So that quick ride from the bus stop to the office or from the train to your apartment, that's where ride-hailing steps in.
Makes total sense. Okay, switching gears a bit, let's talk about electric vehicles in Europe. Our source paints a somewhat bleak picture. What's the situation there? What are the biggest roadblocks?
Well, European EV manufacturers are facing a double whammy, really.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, there's massive competition from Chinese companies who are exporting tons of affordable EVs. Almost 60% of their production is going overseas, and a lot of it is landing in Europe.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And then on top of that, you have the possibility of high tariffs being slapped on those imports. We could see as high as 35%.
Ouch.
Right? So European policymakers are stuck between a rock and a hard place, trying to support their own industries while also making sure EVs are actually affordable for people to buy.
Yeah, tough spot. I'm curious to see how that unfolds. Speaking of interesting developments, we've got to talk about Meta. They're known for social media, but now they're getting into augmented reality glasses. It seems like a pretty big jump from connecting us online to, well, putting tech right on our faces. Why the shift?
I think it's a sign of where they see the future, heading, beyond the screen and into this world of immersive experiences. These glasses, they're not just a gadget. They represent this idea of seamlessly integrating technology into our lives, giving us instant information, hands-free communication, even like virtual elements layered over the real world.
It sounds pretty sci-fi, to be honest.
It does, doesn't it?
But how realistic is it? I mean, will people actually use this?
That's the million-dollar question. For these glasses to be more than just a fad, Meta has to prove they have real value in everyday life, which is, easier said than done. Plus, there are the obvious privacy concerns, data security, even the potential for even more digital distraction than we already have.
For sure. It's a lot. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about AI. Our source mentions a global summit on AI governance, which sounds incredibly important, but also kind of vague. What's the key takeaway for our listeners?
Well, it shows that AI regulation is no longer some futuristic concern. It's a global priority right now. I mean, the fact that governments and researchers are coming together to figure out ethical frameworks for AI development, that's a big deal.
So ensuring that AI works for us, not the other way around.
Exactly. And the question, I think, that we all need to be asking is, what does that actually look like? What does it mean for AI to serve the public good? How do we make sure these algorithms that are increasingly shaping our lives, how do we ensure they're fair, transparent, and actually accountable?
Such a crucial conversation to be having. Well, thanks for breaking all of that down with us. Really interesting stuff.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk about this stuff.
And to you, the listener, our source leaves us with this final thought. We have all this technology that's changing our cities, how we live in them, how they function. The question is, what role do we want it to play going forward? What kind of future do we want to build for our urban spaces? What do you envision? Think about it.